everybody, I'm Nora Burrows. I recently participated in an improv quilt block exchange with my guild. Now, our improv blocks have been exchanged, and now I'm working on altering those blocks. So some of them are my own, some of them are other guild members, but I'm altering those blocks to work cohesively in my quilt. This is the second episode. We worked on section 1 last time. We're going to work on section 2. Let's take a look at the blocks we're going to be working with today. And then at the end of the video, I want to make a little change to the section that we worked on last time that I think is just going to work better. It's going to make me a little happier. So let's take a look. Last week we worked on this section up here. It was 4 blocks up there. This yellow one is the one I'm going to change at the end of the video. Do something really simple. I don't even have to seam rip anything. What we're going to do today is scooch over to this side and work on the 5 blocks that make up this section right here. Let me grab those blocks, put them on the table, and we'll think some things through. I had said there was 5 blocks in this section. There's actually 7. I want to restate from the last video that I'm not changing these blocks because I don't like them. So none of these blocks are blocks that I created. These are all from various guild members. I love all of these blocks, each and every one of them. I'm changing them so that they work better together as a group. Now, let me think about how I'm going to do that. So let me put these ones aside. I want to work with this block first and this one here, these 2. This is the first block, and I think similar to the other block that I did that was similar to this last week is I want to applique something in the center, and then I think I want to chop this border off to allow myself to give a little bit of a wider border. It also means that these points are going to get cut off quite a bit. So they're already cut off here, which doesn't bother me at all. And if I, take a good amount off of each side, it's really going to bring those points in, which I think could be kind of cool. And what I'm thinking for this is, you may remember from, this was the one we did last video, and we had this section of kind of a weird checkerboard here. And I have some pieces from that left over. And I was thinking that maybe I would do some sort of, I'd have to piece some things together to kind of run a strip of checkerboard coming up this way. So basically I would cut this piece off to add another piece, eventually sew this piece back on and trim it. So I really like, when you put these 2 together, how these 3 solid colors are. I really think that that's successful and works well. This here to me doesn't work so well with this piece over here. I'll take this, I'll cut along here, take this piece off and add something else, perhaps more like a green or even this additional solid, which would be different from this green, but that might be okay. I'm going to experiment a little bit, but let's see what we can do with those 2 ideas. I've done something here that I think could be really cool. I took this fabric. I think this might be a French General, but I'm not sure. I had a lot of leftover pieces that already had the Wonder Under on it on the back that I was using for a different project, and I cut out some pieces from various parts of that. The first one I cut out was this piece here, and then I cut out this one. But if I just put those 2 together like that, I want to be able to see kind of the curly parts here. I have that space underneath. So then I cut out this tiny piece and just kind of stuck it under here and then added this on top. So with the Wonder Under, you iron on this adhesive on the back, but this is not sticky. And then you peel off the paper. Now this still won't be sticky, but once you iron it, it will stick. But you have to peel off the paper first. So I'll do that with all these, with each of these 3 pieces here. And this way you can kind of move them around where you think you might want them. And then once you've committed, you can stick them on. The smart thing to do is to have your ironing board already underneath this so you don't have to move it. But I didn't think of that till just now. I'm going to iron this and then top stitch. I ironed this on and top stitched around the edge. You can see there's top stitching on the back. And now what I'm going to do is trim off these sides. that looks great. What I'm gonna do next, you may think is a little nuts because I tried something similar in the last video and it did not work well, but this will work much better. I'm gonna add a little bit of lace onto each corner like this. So I'll just cut a little piece for each corner and then top stitch it on with a similar color thread. Hopefully I have enough of this. Let's see if I do. It's gonna be close. I think I will. All right, let me sew those pieces on. I think I'm gonna use this fabric here as a border. I'll show you why. I do like this in bigger pieces, and unfortunately these will just be strips. But if you look at, it goes really nicely with not only the colors in this block next to this, but also this kind of brown and gold really matches quite well with the gold kind of in the print here. Here's where we're at. I think this came out pretty good. I love the lace around it. Now, this is an improv block, but it looks like a pretty traditional block to me. So something to keep in mind that improv doesn't have to just be modern. So let's take a look at the other piece we were working on, which was this one here. I have created this long strip. I kind of just randomly sewed some of these black and white pieces together that already existed. I want to put it right against the edge here. So what I'm going to do is cut right along the seam here, just like that. I'm going to save this piece, but I'm going to put it aside. I'm going to cut a straight line on this piece here. So these will match up like this. I'll flip this over, right sides together, and sew 1/4 inch along here. So to me, this black and white line, here, let me put down this piece next to it. So this piece goes here. And this black and white line kind of breaks up visually between the more modern colors, solids, that kind of thing, and then kind of this more muted part here. But we have this little yellow piece, so I want to get rid of the yellow piece. And then over here, we have some of these more muted colors. And so I think I want to replace those with maybe some of this green that I have. And then that will be kind of very, very blocky, and it will visually be broken up by this black and white piece. And then this is kind of the same color scheme as these solid blocks over here. I'm just going to cut right like this. What I also have, because when we were exchanging blocks, you had an option to give a little bit of scrap fabric or scrap pieces so that people could use them later on as they were making their blocks. So I have this piece that was given to me when I received this block. So what I could do is something like this. And then I'd need to add another piece on, and then I could sew this piece to this piece. But let me think that through. I also need to take this off over here. And maybe what I can even do, when I take these two pieces off, I can put them over here. Let me think about that. Here's what I've done. I cut this piece off of here and this piece off of here, and I can move them over here like this. And I'll obviously trim off that yellow bit. Then what I think I'm gonna do, which is a little bit radical here, is cut. So this is the piece that was supposed to go kind of here. So this block that we created kind of goes here, this one goes next to it, this one goes here. Anyway, I'm gonna take this block and I'm gonna cut out this middle green part and this piece over here. And because the color scheme goes better over here than it does up here, I'm gonna take those green pieces and try and fill in those spots. I sewed these two pieces together, which were over there. Next I'll sew this piece to this piece, and you could kind of play around with, you know, how you like the direction. I mean, that's kind of cool as well, actually. So let me think about that. But then I need another piece for up here, and I found in my stash this feathery green that tonally I think it actually goes pretty well with this. So I'll cut a piece the right size to go there. Now, over here is a little more complicated. I cut out those green pieces, and then I had this bright pink fabric from the blocks that we did last time that I thought would work well, but actually it doesn't. I don't think it goes. So this would be like here or something. I don't know. I didn't measure exactly. I kind of just sewed pieces on to see what I thought. But I think it's not the right color for over here. So I'm gonna take these off and figure something else out. This piece was here and I cut that off. Then I found this piece that had been given to me with one of the blocks, and I think if I put it here, if I attach it here, then it will kind of bring some of the patterned and solid pieces from down here and bring them up there, which will work well. And then, you know, I'll have to cut it. I'll have this extra piece and I'll see if I can put that extra piece there. So I have this piece here that I can use. This worked out well, attaching those two sections. And then, as you remember, I cut off a piece down here. So I think what I want to do is take this piece that has the same fabric as this and use this fabric and this fabric to make up this piece down here. Here's where we're at, and I don't feel that this is all that successful. You know, I could just sew these pieces together and then trim to size. I do think that this is working here, so I will sew this piece to this. This is already connected as a unit, and I think that's working okay. But I think what I want to do up here, this is like a lot happening here, is maybe cut even like all the way up here or something, and then use this yellow that I think might work a little bit better. And then maybe even just cut that off and put it there as well. Here's where we're at. I've squared this up and we have plenty of room vertical, but it's not wide enough. So what I think I'm gonna do, I also have this piece kind of down here that needs to be fixed. So I'm gonna just kind of cut on the diagonal here. I'm gonna put a piece of this black in this corner and then another piece of black going up this way. I may see if I have a batik kind of this similar color to add like a little, no, I'm not doing that. I am not doing that. We're gonna keep this simple. We're gonna add a piece here, a triangle here, and then a triangle going up of the black. Here's where we're at, and instead of adding a strip of black along this side, I'm gonna add it, or not black, but I'm gonna add something to this side as well, but I'm gonna wait to do that farther into working on these blocks to see what fabric makes sense. The reason why I'm not gonna add it onto this side is because if you look at the block that's next to it, which is this one here, I think these pieces go really well next to each other. How this burgundy fabric kind of matches up with this pinky burgundy up here. So I wanted these two to connect. What I want to do next is this piece here. And, you know, as you can see, I really mangled this piece. What would be cool, which I think I'm actually not going to do, would be to take a piece of fabric and top stitch this on. Right, so this is kind of how it would look. And I don't hate that. I think it could be really cool. But what I think I'm gonna do instead is not use this and do something else. I'll tell you what that something else is. But first I wanna say, you know, I'll save this and hopefully use it in some way in another part of the quilt. But unfortunately, this is kind of the second block that I've completely mangled in the last video. I destroyed a block and now I've kind of destroyed this one. So that's really unfortunate. I did have somebody in the comments say that they had a hard time watching me cut up other people's work. And I understand that, but I don't quite agree with that for a few reasons. On top of the fact that from the very beginning of this block exchange, it was said very clearly that the point was to take people's blocks and alter them to make them your own. When you're working with so many people's different blocks and aesthetics, things get messy, and the one consistency in this quilt is going to be me. So it will have a consistent feeling because it has my energy into it. So that was known from the beginning, and everybody who participated in the improv block exchange knew that was the deal, that their blocks were going to get cut up. But even if that wasn't the deal, and in typical block exchanges, sometimes you receive a block that just you don't like, that it doesn't really work with what you're doing. And we'll talk more about that another time because I have a lot of thoughts and feelings, but about that in particular. But what I think I'm going to do for this space up here is use a little bit of novelty fabric. Just cut out the right size of this bird print here and use that in this spot. I used a bunch of novelty prints in last video's blocks, and I kind of want to use some here. So I think this is a nice opportunity for a nice chunk of that piece, and it will go nicely with at least this one up here. Let me cut that out, and then let's think about some of these other blocks. And one last thing about this is that even though the point is to alter blocks, I never want to not use a block. And so that's why I'm really sad about this piece and about the piece from last video is now I'm not definitely going to be able to use that. And I think that is not sticking with kind of the mission of this project. So that's too bad. It's unfortunate, but also, we got to roll with the punches. So let's cut out that bird fabric and see how it looks. I did cut this piece of fabric to go here, and I think that's going to go nicely. However, I will say that I did also complete this piece, and I love it. So I sewed the red fabric onto the back, and as you can see, I stitched right along the edge of that shape. I also stitched along the edge of the block itself just to give it some extra security. So I think this is looking pretty cool. And I would use it here, but I think that it's a little bit close to that fabric right up there. So I'd like to use it somewhere else. So I'm gonna save this and use that. I'm excited about that. This is how this block was, and I took this out. I think it's much better without it. So what I'll have is a piece of fabric going up this way, and then that same fabric coming down, and then this will be a triangle here. I replaced it with this strip here. Now I don't need as much over here as I thought that I did. I only need about a 1/2 inch, so I'm thinking I might put this fabric here that's the same as over here. Now up with this block, I'm gonna use this strip. Now, where is it? Somewhere on here is a rip. Oh, it's right here, you can see. So I'm gonna patch this and then cut it in half and use half of it up here and then half of it down here. And that's gonna continue kind of this brightness around. And like I said, I have pieces of this kind of in that other section that we worked on. So that will be good. I removed these pieces here, and I have this little piece. This is all I have of this. This was given to me from the person who made this block. Like I mentioned, when we exchanged blocks, we were also given the opportunity to give little scraps or pieces that went with the blocks that could be useful. So this, I think, will be useful because if I were to just cut this block in half, it wouldn't be long enough to reach. So what I'll do is put this piece here, and then sew this piece onto the end, cut it off, and put the remainder over here. This block here came from the pieces that we used last video in kind of the same way. This big rectangle here, and then this big rectangle here, and we split them up almost exactly like we're doing here. Here's the finished block. I love it. I'm incredibly happy with it. Let's put it where it goes, which is right here. It's still a little kind of busy around here for me, but it's okay. I think we're gonna leave it as is. Let's think about this block up here. For this block, I want to make sure to preserve this beautiful purple and yellow triangle here and really make this the focus of the block. In addition, I want to keep the black around the outside, but I think I want to change the black because if you look at this block that surrounds it, or that's adjacent to it, this black is harsher than this one. So I want to soften this black a little bit, and I have this really beautiful pinstripe here. And so I'd like to surround the pinstripe, surround the triangle in the pinstripe, and then go from there. So this block is still looking pretty harsh. I haven't trimmed the sides, I just tucked them under, but this block is still looking pretty harsh to me. I do like how it kind of protrudes from these squares here. I think I like that. But I'm gonna maybe try adding some of this zebra print here. That's what that looks like. And have just kind of the thin border of the black and then add this and just see how that looks. And here we go. I attached these 3 pieces together. This is one long strip. I also added this triangle onto the cool zebra background. I did just top stitch this triangle on top. I did not piece it. Then the other change I made is over here. I made this red border thinner and added this blue pinstripe, which I think just lightens up the section a little bit. Now, one thing, so we're almost done. We're really close. I'm gonna work on this block down here. I think I know what I'm gonna do. I may change up this piece, I'm not sure. But what I could do with this is just flip it if I wanted. So that kind of, you know, I don't have to decide right now. I'm gonna work on this piece next. But that's an option. I could spin it around or just leave it the way that it was. So I'm gonna think about that. But what I'm gonna do for this block here is, let's take a look. It's gonna be pretty simple. I'm gonna cut it off here and then make this strip a little bit thinner, so trim it a bit, and then add this geometric gray fabric down on the bottom. This piece is done, and I think it actually looks really similar to how it initially looked, which is great. I'm torn on this piece here. I did create this block that could go in that spot instead. This is a Charlie Harper fabric, and then I just sewed it to this checkerboard fabric. I think these houses are so cute. The houses in the snow with the tree and then the big pink bird. So I could use that here instead, which I'm a little bit inclined to do because the pink in the bird really brings out kind of that burgundy. The burgundy wing is almost exactly the same color here. I'm not sure if it needs the checkerboard. Maybe I could get rid of the checkerboard. That might be a little cleaner, but it does kind of add a little bit of extra interest with that checkerboard fabric. Let me think about it, and then I'm going to sew this up. The other choice I need to make is about the directionality of this here. And what I like about spinning it like this is that kind of charcoaly fabric goes nicely with the bird and the checkerboard, and then this burgundy kind of goes with this. But I don't want these seams to line up. I don't want it to be like this. So I would have to figure out how to move it. I'd want to move it down some, which might mean I need to add a piece that's more checkerboard to it, which would be fine. So let me think about that. And this section is finished. I was very doubtful there for a while that this was going to come together, but I actually think it looks really good. I'm very pleased with it. Let's take a look at this piece in the full quilt with the other blocks. Here it is with the other pieces. So we worked on this section up here in this video. Last video we worked on that. So the pieces we have to connect those are the blue one up there and then this kind of darker one here. This has been a really interesting process so far. I'm actually not going to do anything with that yellow block up there yet, like I said that I was, for 2 reasons. One, I'm just kind of spent and I'm kind of just want to be done with with the video for today. But I'm also thinking that as other aspects of the quilt come together, that maybe I won't need to do what I was thinking, but maybe I will. We'll talk about it in the next video. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe. Oh, let me show you a little bit closer. All right, so here it is in with the other pieces. So if you kind of see what's going to be next below these, it's this handsome forest green piece, this kind of wild one here, and then those are the two that we need to work on to connect the pieces we've already done. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.